It's wonderful to have you here. Every night, your brain builds an entire world from nothing. A world so convincing that while you're inside it, you never question whether it's real. Tonight, you'll discover why so many people are learning to wake up inside that world and understand what dream science is only now beginning to reveal. Welcome to Sleepy Science Facts. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying in your favorite spot, breathing slower than you were an hour ago, allow yourself this quiet exploration. We'll journey through 100 dream science facts about lucid dreaming. From the moment your brain recognizes it is dreaming, to the neural signatures lighting up in sleeping minds, to the ancient human desire to step consciously into the world behind closed eyes. This thoughtful journey through dream science builds a quiet community of curious minds. A soft subscribe, like, or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more dream explorers to discover this peaceful space and brings us closer to protecting it, one sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here means more than you know. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into the peaceful fog of approaching sleep. Safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where memories rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Lucid dreaming is the experience of becoming aware that you are dreaming while the dream is still happening. Most dreams occur without any awareness at all. The dreaming mind simply accepts whatever it encounters as real. A lucid dream changes that completely. Something in the sleeping brain pauses, notices the strangeness of its own creation, and recognizes the truth. This is a dream. In that moment, consciousness flickers on inside sleep. Researchers have confirmed this state through brain imaging and eye signal studies, showing that lucid dreamers are genuinely asleep, in deep REM sleep, while simultaneously holding a kind of waking awareness. It is one of the strangest natural states the human mind can enter. The word lucid comes from the Latin word for light, to lux. To have a lucid dream is, in a quiet way, to bring light into the dark interior of sleep. The term was introduced into modern science by the Dutch psychiatrist Frederik van Eeden in 1913, after he kept a careful dream journal for years and noticed that certain dreams felt distinctly different, clearer, more deliberate, somehow lit from within. He called them lucid dreams to distinguish them from ordinary dreaming. Though the experience had been described across centuries and cultures long before him, Van Eeden gave it a name that science could hold on to. That name, and that description, still guide researchers today. Surveys suggest that roughly 55% of adults have experienced at least one lucid dream in their lifetime. That means more than half of all people alive right now have, at some point, woken up inside a dream while their body remained asleep. The experience is not rare. It is not reserved for spiritual practitioners or unusually vivid dreamers. It is something the sleeping brain can do on its own, sometimes by accident, sometimes after years of practice. What is rarer is doing it regularly. Studies suggest that only around 23% of people experience lucid dreams once a month or more. The door is open to most, but learning to walk through it consistently takes time. The first scientific verification of lucid dreaming came quietly on the morning of April 12, 1975, when psychologist Keith Hearn at Hull University in England captured a signal that would change the study of dreaming. His subject, a skilled lucid dreamer named Alan Worsley, had agreed beforehand to move his eyes in a specific left-right pattern upon becoming lucid inside a dream. When those signals appeared on the recording equipment, steady, deliberate, unmistakable, while Worsley remained in sleep, science had its first glimpse inside a conscious dream. Several years later, Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University independently replicated and expanded the experiment using full brainwave monitoring, bringing the finding into the mainstream of sleep research. The dreaming mind, it turned out, could speak. The brain during lucid dreaming looks different from ordinary REM sleep. When a person becomes lucid inside a dream, activity increases noticeably in the frontal lobe, particularly in areas associated with self-reflection, decision-making, and metacognition. Metacognition means thinking about your own thinking, knowing that you know. In ordinary dreams, the frontal lobe is relatively quiet. In lucid dreams, it gently reactivates. This is why lucid dreamers can remember who they are, where they fell asleep, and that they are, in fact, dreaming. The resting brain briefly reclaims a kind of waking intelligence while staying within sleep. It is, neurologically, a genuinely hybrid state. Gamma wave activity, brain oscillations in the 40 Hz range, has been detected during lucid dreaming. Gamma waves are typically associated with alert, focused waking consciousness. Their appearance in a sleeping brain during a lucid dream is one of the reasons some neuroscientists describe lucid dreaming as a third state of consciousness, distinct from both ordinary sleep and waking. This gamma activity is distinct from the frontal lobe reactivation described before. It reflects a pattern of synchronized oscillation across brain regions that appears to bind awareness together. It is not simply dreaming with a little extra awareness. It appears to involve a genuinely different pattern of neural coordination. This has made lucid dreaming increasingly interesting to researchers studying consciousness itself. Not just sleep. People have been intentionally seeking out lucid dreams for thousands of years. Tibetan Buddhist monks practiced a discipline called dream yoga as early as the 8th century, using nighttime awareness as a path towards spiritual insight. The goal was not to control dreams for entertainment, but to recognize the nature of the dreaming mind, and through that recognition, understand consciousness more deeply. Ancient Greek philosophers, including Aristotle, wrote about the experience of noticing oneself within a dream. Indigenous traditions across many cultures developed practices around conscious dreaming. The desire to wake up inside the dream world is ancient, universal, and deeply human. One of the most common reasons people want to learn lucid dreaming is creative exploration. Inside a lucid dream, the dreamer can potentially walk through landscapes that do not exist, speak with figures from their own imagination, hear music their waking mind could not compose, or experience sensations entirely beyond physical possibility. Writers, artists, musicians, and inventors across history have described using dreams as a source of creative material. The difference with lucid dreaming is intentionality, the ability to move through this creative space with some degree of awareness rather than simply receiving whatever the dream chooses to offer. Another reason many people pursue lucid dreaming is nightmare resolution. Recurring nightmares affect a meaningful portion of the population, and for some people, they are deeply disruptive to both sleep and daily life. If a person can become lucid inside a nightmare, they gain the possibility of changing it, not by waking up in distress, but by remaining inside the dream while recognizing it as a dream and gently shifting its direction. Research into imagery, rehearsal therapy, and more recently into lucid dreaming as a complement to that approach, suggests this may be a genuinely helpful tool for some people who struggle with recurring bad dreams. There is a growing interest in lucid dreaming as a way to practice real-world skills inside the dream state. The research here is still early, but some studies have found that rehearsing physical tasks, like finger sequences, sporting movements, or coordination exercises, inside a lucid dream may produce small, measurable improvements in waking performance. The motor cortex, the brain region responsible for movement, shows activity during dreamed movement. It does not fully replicate the benefits of physical practice, but the possibility that dreaming could be a low-stakes rehearsal space is one that sleep researchers continue to explore carefully. The most common technique for developing lucid dreaming is called reality testing. It involves performing small checks throughout the day, looking at your hands, trying to push a finger through your palm, reading text and then reading it again, to determine whether you are dreaming or awake. The logic is that habits built during waking life can carry over into dreams. If you spend weeks asking yourself, "Am I dreaming?" many times each day, eventually you may ask that question inside a dream. Notice that something is wrong. The text changes. The hand looks strange, and realize the truth. It is slow, gentle, and quietly effective for some people. A second practice technique is called MILD, which stands for Mnemonic Induction of Lucid Dreams. It was developed by psychologist Stephen LaBerge during the 1980s. The method involves waking after several hours of sleep, spending a short time awake, then falling back to sleep while repeating the intention to recognize the dream. The practitioner visualizes a recent dream and imagines becoming lucid within it. LaBerge's research suggested that MILD could meaningfully increase lucid dream frequency for motivated practitioners. It remains one of the most studied induction methods in sleep science. The WILD technique, wake-initiated lucid dream, involves transitioning directly from waking consciousness into a dream state without losing awareness. The practitioner lies completely still, allows the body to fall asleep, and attempts to maintain a thin thread of conscious awareness throughout. This is more challenging than other methods. The boundary between the two states, waking and dreaming, can involve unusual sensations, tingling, visual disturbances, a deep physical heaviness, as the brain crosses from one mode into another. Some researchers associate these experiences with sleep paralysis phenomena. For those who find their way through, the experience is often described as remarkably clear. Sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming share a neurological neighborhood. During REM sleep, the brainstem sends signals that temporarily limit voluntary muscle movement, a mechanism that prevents the sleeping body from acting out its dreams. Occasionally, a person partially wakes while this paralysis is still in effect, finding themselves unable to move while still experiencing dream imagery. This is sleep paralysis. For people practicing lucid dreaming techniques, this overlap can sometimes serve as an entry point. But for those who encounter it without preparation, the experience can feel unsettling. Understanding it as a normal neurological event, a kind of threshold between states, can make it considerably less distressing. The REM stage of sleep, where most vivid dreaming occurs, deepens and lengthens as the night progresses. The first REM period of the night lasts only about 10 minutes. By the fourth or fifth cycle, it may last an hour or longer. This is why most spontaneous lucid dreams happen in the later hours of sleep, particularly between 5 and 8 in the morning. The longer REM windows of the early morning hours give the brain more time to generate complex, elaborate dream content. They also appear to provide more opportunities for the frontal lobe to gently reactivate and recognize the dreaming state. Lucid dreaming ability appears to be related in part to individual differences in working memory and metacognitive skill. People who are good at monitoring their own thought processes during waking life, noticing when their mind wanders, reflecting on their own reasoning, tend to report higher rates of spontaneous lucid dreaming. This connection makes intuitive sense. The skill at the heart of lucid dreaming is exactly metacognition, the mind observing itself. Some researchers suggest that practices like mindfulness meditation, which build this self-observational capacity during waking hours, may also increase the likelihood of lucid dreaming over time. A study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that applying gentle electrical stimulation at 40 Hz to the frontal and temporal regions of the brain during REM sleep could prompt lucid dreaming in people who had never experienced it before. The researchers recruited 27 healthy young adults and delivered a weak current while they slept. The 40 Hz frequency, part of the gamma wave range, triggered lucid dreaming in a significant portion of participants, while other frequencies and sham stimulations produced none. This research provided direct evidence that gamma activity in the frontal cortex can cause the lucid dreaming state, not simply accompany it. The sleeping brain, it appears, can be gently tuned toward awareness. The experience of control within a lucid dream varies enormously. Some lucid dreamers report feeling considerable freedom, able to fly, transform the environment, summon people or objects at will. Others report that even knowing they are dreaming, the dream resists their intentions, continuing along its own path with what feels like independent momentum. Researchers believe this variance reflects differences in frontal lobe activation levels. A more fully activated frontal region may produce stronger executive control. A lighter degree of lucidity may allow awareness without much agency. The dream, in these cases, continues to write itself. Dream characters, the figures who appear inside dreams, behave differently in lucid dreams than in ordinary ones. In non-lucid dreaming, characters are typically accepted without question. In lucid dreams, the dreamer may notice that characters respond to questions, resist the dreamer's actions, or behave in unexpected ways that the dreamer did not intend. Some lucid dreamers report being genuinely surprised by what their own dream characters say. This raises fascinating questions for researchers about the relationship between conscious agency and unconscious generation inside the dreaming mind. The characters, in some sense, seem to have their own source. Lucid dreaming research has expanded considerably in the past decade, partly due to advances in neuroimaging and partly due to growing interest in its therapeutic applications. A systematic review of studies published in recent years analyzed dozens of research papers and found consistent evidence that lucid dreaming can be reliably developed through behavioral techniques in healthy adults, that it produces measurable changes in frontal lobe activity, and that it shows promising results as an adjunct approach for nightmare-related difficulties. The field has found a quiet home in mainstream sleep science. A study published in the journal Current Biology in early 2021 demonstrated something that had seemed impossible: real-time two-way communication with people inside a lucid dream. 4 independent research teams across the United States, France, Germany, and the Netherlands coordinated a shared experiment. Sleeping participants who had achieved lucidity were asked simple questions, including basic arithmetic, and responded using pre-arranged eye movement signals. 6 of 36 participants successfully answered on 29 occasions, remaining in verified REM sleep throughout. The researchers called it interactive dreaming. It was the first documented exchange ever held with a mind inside a dream. Not everyone who wants to lucid dream finds it easy. Sleep architecture, lifestyle factors, and individual variation all influence how readily the experience occurs. People who sleep irregularly, who wake frequently, or who do not reach long REM windows may find lucid dreaming harder to access. Sleep hygiene, consistent sleep times, a cool and quiet sleep environment, reducing screen light before bed, indirectly supports lucid dreaming by improving REM sleep quality and duration. The dream world, in this sense, is more accessible when the conditions for deep sleep are honored. Children and adolescents appear to experience lucid dreams more frequently than older adults. Research published in 2024 found that roughly 67% of adolescents surveyed had experienced at least one lucid dream in their lifetime, compared to around 55% in the general adult population. Some researchers attribute this to differences in sleep architecture. Younger brains spend proportionally more time in REM sleep overall. Others suggest that younger minds may be more naturally attentive to the strangeness of dreams, less conditioned to normalize the unusual. The filtering tendencies of adult cognition, so useful during waking life, may sometimes work gently against noticing the impossible within a dream. Certain qualities of personality are associated with higher rates of lucid dreaming. Studies have found correlations with openness to experience, one of the 5 major personality dimensions, which involves curiosity, imagination, and comfort with unconventional ideas. People who score high on openness tend to have richer inner lives, engage more deeply with their own experiences, and pay more attention to their dreams in general. These qualities appear to create conditions for the kind of self-aware, exploratory attention that lucid dreaming requires. The personality and the practice seem to grow from the same roots. The desire to lucid dream is, at its heart, a desire to explore the one place entirely your own. Every other environment in a person's life is shared, shaped by other people, physical laws, the constraints of circumstance. But the dream world is generated from within. It is built from memory, emotion, desire, and imagination, assembled by a brain that is both its architect and its inhabitant. Lucid dreaming asks, what would you do if you could walk consciously through the world your own mind creates? For many people, that question alone is enough to keep them reaching, night after night, for the edge of awareness. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside. Trillions of processes working in silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, brain thinking, all without your command. Notice the gentle sensations on your skin, in your muscles, along your spine. You are a complete ecosystem, diverse, self-balancing. Now we continue. The brain does not stop processing sensory information during sleep. It simply changes how it handles it. External sounds, temperature changes, and even gentle touch can be woven into the ongoing dream narrative without waking the sleeper. A ringing sound might become a telephone in the dream. A cool draft might appear as a wind on a dream landscape. This integration of real sensation into imagined experience is one of the brain's most elegant sleep behaviors. And it is part of why the dream world feels so convincingly real while it is happening. Dream researchers have identified several recurring categories of dream experience that appear across cultures and throughout recorded history. Flying, falling, being pursued, arriving unprepared for an important moment, losing teeth. These themes appear with remarkable consistency in dream reports from people who have no connection to each other. Lucid dreamers often first become aware inside a dream precisely when one of these heightened scenarios occurs. The intensity of the experience, the chase, the fall, may be enough to trigger a flicker of recognition. Something about this is not ordinary. And in that moment, awareness arrives. The emotional intensity of dreams is not random. Research consistently shows that the amygdala, the brain's center for emotional processing, and particularly for threat detection, is highly active during REM sleep. This is why so many dreams carry an emotional charge, why feelings of unease and anxiety appear more frequently in dreams than in waking life, and why some dreams feel more vivid and memorable than others. The sleeping brain is not generating neutral content. It is processing emotion, rehearsing responses, and working through unresolved feelings in a space where consequences do not exist. Memory consolidation is one of the primary functions of REM sleep. During this stage, the brain moves memories from short-term to long-term storage, extracts patterns, and integrates new information with existing knowledge. Dream content often reflects this process, mixing recent events with older memories in ways that would seem illogical while awake. Some sleep researchers describe REM sleep as the brain's overnight editor, reviewing the day's footage, finding connections, and assembling experiences into the longer story of a life. Lucid dreaming, in this context, is like briefly watching that editing process from inside the room During lucid dreaming, partial activation of memory retrieval systems gives the dreamer access to biographical knowledge that ordinary dreaming leaves behind. This is why lucid dreamers can remember, while inside the dream, important facts about their waking lives: who they are, where they fell asleep, what they intended to do. The dreaming mind gains a thread back to the self. It is not full waking memory, more like a quiet knowing, a sense of continuity that ordinary dreaming rarely offers. The sleeper and the dreamer, for a moment, become the same person. Time perception inside dreams is altered in ways that researchers are still working to understand. Many dreamers report that dream time feels continuous and extended, that a dream seems to last for hours. But studies measuring actual REM duration and comparing it to dream length estimates suggest that in many cases, dream time corresponds reasonably closely to clock time. Some particularly vivid sequences may feel longer than they are, and the fragmented quality of some dreams may reflect discontinuous memory rather than genuine time distortion. The dream mind may be editing its own timeline even as it creates it. Lucid dreamers who have practiced extensively often report developing the ability to stabilize a dream that is beginning to fade. When a lucid dream begins to dissolve, the image becoming unclear, the sounds dimming, certain approaches can extend it. Rubbing the hands together is one of the most commonly described stabilization methods. Looking carefully at a nearby object or the ground is another. Researchers believe these actions engage sensory-motor systems in the brain, which reinforce the dream's sensory coherence. The act of attending carefully to the dream environment appears to give it renewed solidity. The question of whether dream characters represent aspects of the dreamer's own inner world has interested both psychologists and dream researchers for a long time. Modern cognitive neuroscience tends to approach this carefully. Dream characters are generated by the same brain systems that construct the dream environment, drawing on memory networks that hold representations of real and imagined people. Whether they carry deeper psychological meaning is a question that remains genuinely open. What does appear clear is that the emotional response to dream characters is real, felt by the dreamer and reflected in the body's physiology during sleep. Smell is one of the rarest of the senses in dreams. While visual and auditory dream experiences are nearly universal, reports of dreaming in smell are far less common. This aligns with what is known about olfactory processing during sleep. The olfactory system appears to be less integrated into the dream-generating networks of the sleeping brain than visual and auditory regions are. When smell does appear in a dream, it is often connected to emotionally significant memories, suggesting that the powerful link between scent and memory that exists during waking is still present. If quieter, during sleep, there is a condition known as REM, sleep behavior disorder, in which the muscle limitation of REM sleep does not occur as it should. People with this condition physically act out their dreams, speaking, moving their arms, sometimes leaving bed, while remaining asleep and unaware of their real surroundings. This condition is of medical interest because it has been associated with certain neurological conditions in older adults, and it is something a healthcare professional should assess. It also provides, from a different angle, evidence for how vividly the motor system is engaged during dreaming, even when the body normally remains still. Lucid dreaming appears to involve a distinctive pattern in the default mode network, the brain network associated with self-referential thought, daydreaming, and the sense of personal identity. During ordinary sleep, the default mode network operates in an altered way. During lucid dreaming, aspects of this network that relate to self-awareness and autobiographical continuity appear to gently reactivate. This is consistent with the lucid dreamer's experience of knowing who they are, where they come from, and that the world around them, however vivid, is a construction of their own mind. Some researchers have explored whether lucid dreaming could support physical rehabilitation. The idea is rooted in the known capacity of mental imagery to engage motor pathways. In people recovering from stroke or injury with limited physical movement, mental rehearsal during waking has already shown some benefit. Lucid dreaming offers a richer, more immersive form of mental rehearsal, one in which movement feels embodied rather than merely imagined. Early research is exploratory, and the approach is still considered emerging. But the hypothesis is grounded in real neuroscience. The brain can sometimes be gently encouraged through the movements it imagines. The emotional quality of lucid dreams tends to be more positive than ordinary dreams. Multiple studies comparing lucid dream reports to non-lucid dream reports have found that lucid dreams contain lower rates of distressing content and higher rates of joy, wonder, and calm. This may be partly because becoming lucid removes the helplessness that makes difficult dreams so unsettling. When you know it is a dream, a pursuing figure loses much of its weight. It may also reflect the orientation of people who practice lucid dreaming, who tend to approach their dream lives with curiosity rather than anxiety. That orientation shapes the experiences they encounter. Not all lucid dreams are peaceful. Some practitioners report false awakenings, a dream in which they believe they have woken up, only to realize later that they are still dreaming. These can occur in sequences, with one false awakening following another, each one feeling completely convincing in the moment. False awakenings and lucid dreams share similar neural signatures and often occur in the same sleep sessions. For experienced lucid dreamers, the false awakening has become a familiar phenomenon, recognized, named, and navigated with a kind of practiced ease. The dream builds a room, and the dreamer walks through it, knowing it is there. The practice of keeping a dream journal is considered foundational to developing lucid dreaming ability. The act of recording dreams immediately upon waking, before the day washes them away, strengthens the brain's capacity to retain dream memory. Over time, the dreamer begins to notice patterns, recurring settings, recurring figures, the personal symbols their dreaming mind returns to again and again. Recognizing these patterns during the day prepares the mind to recognize them inside a dream. And in that recognition, awareness can arrive. The dream journal is not just a record. It is a map of territory the dreamer hopes, someday, to explore with open eyes. Just notice. Don't judge. Just notice where your mind is. We're exploring consciousness itself, the very thing doing the exploring right now. Strange, beautiful, and perfectly calm. Let's drift onward together. Lucid dreaming frequency varies across individuals, and researchers have begun to explore the biological factors that may contribute to this variation. twin studies suggest a moderate heritable component to dream vividness and recall. Specific differences in the systems that regulate serotonin and dopamine, neurotransmitters deeply involved in REM sleep, have been identified as potentially relevant. This does not mean some people are simply unable to lucid dream. It means that for some, the path may require more patience and more practice. The terrain is different, but the destination remains reachable. Certain compounds affect lucid dreaming in ways that sleep researchers are beginning to map more carefully. Acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter central to REM sleep, appears particularly relevant. Galantamine, a compound used in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease, has been found in small studies to increase lucid dreaming frequency and vividness when taken during a midnight waking. These findings are scientifically interesting, but they also come with important cautions. Any substance that affects neurotransmitter systems carries potential side effects, and self-experimentation without medical guidance is not something researchers recommend. The chemistry of the dreaming brain deserves careful, professional handling. The relationship between lucid dreaming and anxiety is layered. Some research suggests that regular lucid dreamers report lower levels of general anxiety than people who do not lucid dream. This could reflect a gradual effect. The sense of agency within the dream world may carry gently into waking life as a background confidence. Or it could reflect a shared quality. People who are naturally more reflective and emotionally at ease may be drawn to dream practices that match their orientation. Both explanations may hold some truth. The research has not yet cleanly separated them, and the relationship remains an open and gentle question. Mindfulness meditation and lucid dreaming share a common cognitive foundation: the trained capacity to observe experience without being entirely absorbed by it. Studies have found that meditators, particularly those with long-term practice in awareness-based traditions, report meaningfully higher rates of lucid dreaming than non-meditators. The mechanism appears to involve both improved metacognitive awareness and possible changes in sleep architecture. Some research suggests long-term meditators may show differences in REM sleep patterns over time. The waking practice, maintained over years, seems to leave a gentle residue in the sleeping mind. The insula, a deep cortical region involved in interoception, the sense of one's own body from within, shows increased activity during lucid dreaming compared to non-lucid REM sleep. This finding aligns with what lucid dreamers often describe: a heightened sense of embodiment inside the dream, the feeling of weight, texture, breath, and physical presence within a world that has no physical substance. The brain, it appears, can generate a convincing body experience entirely from within. The sense of having a body does not require a body. It requires an active insula. Dreams, lucid and otherwise, draw almost entirely from personal experience and memory. The brain does not generate truly random content during sleep. Instead, it recombines, to restructures, and reimagines material that has already passed through the person's life. New faces occasionally appear in dreams, but they are almost always composites of faces the dreamer has encountered before. New landscapes are assembled from familiar spatial elements. The dream world is a personal museum, stocked entirely with things the dreamer has known transformed by the sleeping brain into something new. The desire to return to a pleasant dream, to fall back asleep and re-enter a world that vanished with waking, is something most people have experienced. This instinct has a name in dream research: dream re-entry intention. It does not always succeed, but it is more successful when practiced deliberately and gently, using principles similar to lucid dream induction. The dreamer focuses on the sensory qualities of the dream, holds the intention of returning, and relaxes into sleep without forcing it. Sometimes the door opens again, and when it does, it often feels like coming back to somewhere known. Lucid dreaming has been described in accounts from the Islamic philosopher Ibn al-Arabi in the 12th century, from the writings of Saint Augustine in the 4th century, and across the contemplative traditions of South Asia for millennia. In each context, the experience was understood through the framework available to the person describing it: spiritual, philosophical, medical. What unites all these accounts is the core observation that the dreaming mind can sometimes become aware of itself, that the sleeper can, in some manner, wake up without waking up. This observation has survived every century it was made in, waiting patiently for science to find a way to study it. The average person has between 4 and 6 dreams per night, though most are forgotten before morning. Dream recall is heavily influenced by how sleep ends. People who wake naturally during or shortly after REM sleep remember more dreams than those woken abruptly in a different stage. The sleeping brain does not prioritize dream memory the way it preserves other kinds of experience. Unless something anchors the dream, a sudden feeling, an unusual image, the habit of immediately reaching for a journal, it dissolves like fog lifting before the sun arrives, before the day has fully begun. Halfway through our journey, something is becoming clear. Lucid dreaming is not a curiosity at the edges of science. It is a window into one of the most fundamental questions about the human mind. What is consciousness, and where does it live? The sleeping brain is not absent. It is building worlds, processing emotion, consolidating memory, generating experience. And sometimes, in that activity, something notices itself, noticing. A light comes on inside the dark. The dreamer sees the dream, and in that seeing, the boundaries between waking and sleeping, between observer and observed, between the mind and the world it creates, become quietly, beautifully uncertain. Each cell you have today will be completely replaced within 7 years. You are in the middle of a continuous renewal, and tonight is a part of that process. The memory you believe is most real is actually gently recreated each time you recall it. Right now, your brain is rewriting itself, and tonight is part of that draft. Now we continue the journey. The prefrontal cortex, the region most associated with planning, judgment, and self-awareness, is typically quieted during ordinary dreaming. This quieting is part of why dreams so often feel perfectly logical while they are happening. No matter how unusual their content, a person can meet a talking animal or find themselves in a building that changes shape and accept it entirely. When the prefrontal cortex gently reactivates in a lucid dream, the dreamer suddenly has access to critical reasoning. The talking animal becomes strange, the shifting building becomes a clue. The ordinary rules of reality are remembered. Research in recent years has explored the use of targeted memory reactivation during sleep as a way to prompt lucid dreaming. In targeted memory reactivation, specific cues associated with an intention are played softly during REM sleep. Participants who had been trained to associate a particular tone with the question, "Am I dreaming?" were more likely to report lucid dreams on nights when that tone was played during REM sleep. The dreaming brain, it turns out, can hear whispers from the waking world and respond to them. The sense of flying is one of the most commonly reported lucid dream experiences. When surveyed, a large majority of lucid dreamers report having flown in at least one lucid dream. Some researchers speculate that flying may reflect the brain's partial engagement of vestibular systems, the systems responsible for balance and spatial orientation, during REM sleep. Others suggest it may carry a more abstract quality of freedom and release from constraint. Whatever its source, it is one of the most universally sought experiences in the lucid dream world. The sky inside the dream, for many people, is the first place they go. The stability of a lucid dream often depends on how calm and attentive the dreamer remains after becoming lucid. A rush of feeling, even a positive surge at the realization that the dream is available, can dissolve the dream or wake the dreamer entirely. Experienced lucid dreamers describe learning to receive the awareness of lucidity with quietness, with a kind of deliberate calm that preserves the delicate balance between dreaming and waking. It is a skill that mirrors, in an interesting way, the practice of receiving something beautiful without grasping at it. Lucid dreaming techniques have been explored in therapeutic settings, particularly for the treatment of post-traumatic stress. Nightmares are among the most common and distressing aspects of post-traumatic stress disorder. Imagery rehearsal therapy, rehearsing a changed version of the nightmare while awake, is already an established approach. Adding lucid dreaming training to this gives some people the potential to alter a nightmare in real time, inside the dream itself, before waking in distress. Several small clinical trials have found encouraging results. The research is ongoing, and the approach is still considered emerging. But the possibility is one that sleep science continues to take seriously. The dream self, the person you are within the dream, is not always identical to the waking self. In ordinary dreams, the dreamer experiences situations, makes choices, and inhabits a body that may feel different from waking life. In lucid dreams, this relationship becomes more layered. The dreamer arrives with waking memory and waking identity, but still inhabits a world that operates by different rules. Some lucid dreamers report encountering aspects of themselves that feel unfamiliar, not distressing, but genuinely worth noticing. The dream self knows things the waking self rarely pauses to examine. The ability to read and perform calculations in dreams is generally limited, even in lucid dreams. Text in dreams is notoriously unstable. Letters shift. Words rearrange. Sentences refuse to hold still. Numbers behave similarly. This is consistent with what is known about language and mathematical processing in the brain, which rely on systems that are relatively quieted during REM sleep. Lucid dreamers learn to use this instability as a reality check. When the text on a sign changes each time you read it, you know you are dreaming. the unreliable word becomes a doorway into awareness. The quality of sleep in the hours before an intended lucid dream matters more than people often realize. Fragmented sleep reduces REM sleep duration and quality, making lucid dreams less accessible. Elevated stress affects sleep architecture in ways that can suppress the long REM windows where lucid dreaming tends to occur. The most fertile conditions for lucid dreaming are the same conditions that support deep, restorative sleep in general: consistency, calm, and the quiet patience of a mind that has decided tonight to simply rest. Some cultures have developed communal practices around dreaming in ways that suggest the experience extends beyond the individual. In certain traditions of the Amazon, the Andean highlands, and Aboriginal Australia, dreaming is understood not as a private event, but as a shared territory, a landscape that members of a community can visit and sometimes navigate together. Modern sleep science does not have a framework for shared dreaming, but the universality of the impulse, the ancient human sense that the dream world is a real place worth exploring in community, speaks to something deep in how people have always understood their sleeping minds. The neuroscience of lucid dreaming continues to develop. One of the more active areas of current research involves using portable electroencephalography, wearable brainwave monitors, to detect REM sleep in real time and deliver gentle audio cues timed to the dreamer's sleep stage. Several research-grade devices have been developed along these lines. Their efficacy varies, and study quality ranges widely. But the underlying approach, using the brain's own signals to create conditions for self-awareness within sleep, represents a genuinely new direction in the science of dreaming. People who regularly practice lucid dreaming often report changes in how they relate to ordinary, non-lucid dreams as well. Dream recall deepens. The emotional texture of dreams becomes more familiar and less unsettling. The dreamer develops what might be called dream literacy, a fluency with the language of their own sleeping mind, an ability to read its patterns and recognize its recurring imagery. This literacy does not require every dream to be lucid. It grows from simply paying attention, night after night, to the world the sleeping brain builds in the dark. Hypnagogia, the state between waking and sleep, filled with fleeting images, sounds, and sensations that appear as consciousness begins to dissolve, is a threshold that lucid dreamers often learn to navigate deliberately. These experiences are generated by the brain as it transitions between states, with different neural systems coming online and offline in sequence. For some people, this threshold offers a doorway into intentional dreaming. By maintaining a gentle awareness during hypnagogia, watching the images form without grasping at them, the dreamer can sometimes step directly into a dream with consciousness intact. The sense of wonder that lucid dreaming can evoke has been described by many practitioners as one of its most lasting effects. Not the dream itself, but the feeling it leaves behind. Waking from a lucid dream in which one flew over a mountain range, or spoke with a beloved figure from the past, or watched a sun rise over a landscape of impossible color, carries a residue of that experience into the waking day. Some researchers have suggested that the emotional quality of particularly meaningful dreams may contribute to a background sense of richness and depth that the ordinary day draws on, quietly, without quite knowing why. The overlap between lucid dreaming and the experience of awe has begun to attract attention from researchers. The feeling of encountering something vast and beyond the self is associated with measurable improvements in mood, perspective-taking, and a reduced preoccupation with the personal self. Lucid dreaming, with its landscapes of impossible scale and its quality of stepping outside ordinary existence, may be a natural generator of awe. If so, it may carry benefits that extend beyond the dream into the texture of waking life, in ways that are only beginning to be explored. We now understand that lucid dreaming is not a single state, but a spectrum. At one end is a brief flicker of awareness, a moment of recognition that fades almost immediately, leaving the dream to continue on its own terms. At the other end is a stable, clear, navigable dream experience that can allow extended and deliberate interaction with the dream environment. Most practiced lucid dreamers inhabit the middle of this spectrum most of the time, awake enough to know where they are, not always in full command of what happens next. The spectrum itself is part of what makes the experience endlessly worth returning to. Research on the neuroscience of creativity has found that REM sleep, specifically, supports the formation of remote associations, the ability to connect ideas that are distant from each other in ordinary thought. This is the cognitive process at the heart of creative insight. Lucid dreaming. By making the dreamer an active participant in this associative process, may deepen its creative potential. The dreamer is not merely receiving the connections the sleeping brain makes. They are moving through them, attending to them, selecting and elaborating. The dream becomes a collaboration between the conscious self and something deeper. The role of serotonin in dream regulation is still being carefully mapped. Serotonin activity generally suppresses REM sleep, and the drop in serotonin levels during REM appears to be one of the conditions that allows dreaming to occur. This relationship has practical considerations for people taking medications that affect serotonin systems. Some such medications, including certain antidepressants, may suppress REM sleep and reduce dreaming. Others may increase dream vividness or frequency. The interaction between mood-related neurochemistry and the dream world is a layered terrain, and one worth discussing with a healthcare provider if it feels relevant. Experienced lucid dreamers sometimes describe a particular quality of awareness within the dream that they call clarity, a state in which the dream environment is unusually vivid, stable, and responsive, and in which the dreamer's own cognition feels settled and present. This state is different from ordinary lucidity. It carries a quality of stillness beneath the activity, a kind of dual awareness in which the dreamer is fully inside the dream and fully aware of its nature at the same time. Some practitioners describe it as the closest thing to a meditation state that sleeping has ever offered them. The narrative structure of dreams, the way they tell stories, with characters, settings, and sequences of events, is one of their most distinctive features. Most dreams are not a montage of images. They have a shape, a direction, a sense of unfolding. Neuroscientists believe this narrative quality reflects the activity of the hippocampus and related systems, which organize experience into sequences during both waking and sleeping. In lucid dreaming, the dreamer becomes aware of inhabiting this narrative in real time, not just experiencing it, but in some sense witnessing the story being written. The mind as both author and character at the same time. One of the questions that lucid dreaming quietly raises is the nature of experience itself. If the dreaming mind can generate something entirely convincing, with sensory detail, emotional weight, social interaction, and a coherent sense of self, and if that experience can feel more real in the moment than many waking memories, what does that suggest about experience in general? This is not a question that science can fully answer, but it is a question that many who have spent time inside lucid dreams find themselves returning to, gently, in the ordinary hours of the day. The use of virtual reality technology in sleep research has opened new possibilities for studying dream induction. Participants who spend time in immersive VR environments before sleep show increased rates of dreaming about elements from those environments, a phenomenon sometimes called the Tetris effect, named after studies showing that people who play the game extensively may dream about its patterns. Researchers are exploring whether VR experiences designed to prime lucid dreaming, including reality check training, can increase the frequency of lucid dreams in those new to the practice. The boundary between waking simulation and sleeping experience appears to be more porous than it seems. There is a growing community of lucid dream practitioners who share techniques, experiences, and the particular kind of connection that grows between people who have explored an unusual territory together. Online communities, research collectives, and local dream groups have emerged in recent decades, creating a distributed culture of dream exploration. Many members describe this community as a place where they feel understood, because the experiences that shape their relationship to sleep and consciousness are not always easy to convey to those who have not encountered them. The dream world, explored in company, becomes a shared language. The sleeping brain appears to be capable of supporting certain kinds of insight that the waking brain finds more difficult. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, increases the likelihood of sudden understanding, the quiet arrival of a solution to a problem that had seemed out of reach. Lucid dreaming may be a way to engage with this process more directly, to bring a question into the dream world and observe how the dreaming mind holds it. Some practitioners describe deliberately setting an intention before sleep and returning to the morning with something new, something the day had not offered. The body's physiological responses to dream events are real, even though the events themselves are not. Unease in a dream gently elevates heart rate. Joy in a dream affects breathing. Some physical sensations in dreams are experienced as genuinely present. These physiological responses are measurable and consistent. The brain that is dreaming is not simply running a simulation in isolation. It is running the simulation through the body. The body, in this sense, does not distinguish between a real experience and a perfectly convincing dream. Lucid dreaming has shown us that consciousness is not simply on or off, awake or asleep, aware or unaware. It exists along a continuum, and the sleeping brain occupies many different points on that continuum across a single night. The discovery that awareness can persist within sleep, that the brain can know it is dreaming and still keep dreaming, has gently expanded what scientists mean when they talk about consciousness. The boundaries are softer than expected. The territory is larger, and the exploration, it appears, has only just begun. Almost done. Allow yourself to settle even more deeply. Sleep does not come when you try to sleep. It comes when you stop trying. This is exactly that moment. Let go. Every cell in your body has done this before, many times. The oldest thing your body knows how to do is rest. Trust that knowledge tonight. We'll continue with the final facts. The dream world remembers what the waking world sometimes forgets. Buried feelings, softened memories, the quiet residue of things lived and set aside. These find their way into dreams with a fidelity that waking life rarely allows. The sleeping brain is honest in ways the waking brain cannot always afford to be. In some of the deepest lucid dreams, practitioners describe a moment of stillness in which the activity of the dream pauses, and the dreamer exists simply within the awareness itself, not looking at anything, not moving through any landscape, just present, just breathing, just here. Some describe it as the most peaceful state they have ever known. The dream, in that moment, becomes a room with no walls, a space with no edges, a silence that feels completely full. The word dream comes from an Old Norse root meaning joy or music. Before it became associated with the sleeping mind, it carried a sense of something light, something elevated, something worth reaching toward. That original meaning has never fully left the word. Even now, to dream means more than what happens in sleep. It means the mind reaching, quietly and persistently, towards something beyond the ordinary edges of the day. Research suggests the right hemisphere of the brain tends to play a more prominent role in generating dream imagery, the side more associated with visual processing, spatial awareness, and holistic pattern recognition. The more analytical left hemisphere is comparatively quieted. This may help explain why dreams communicate so often in images and feelings rather than in words and logic. The sleeping mind speaks a different language than the waking one. Learning to hear it requires a particular kind of listening, one that does not insist on reason. Lucid dreaming allows some people to visit memories. Some practitioners describe deliberately navigating towards specific past events, revisiting moments they wish to hold more carefully, walking through places from childhood that no longer exist in the world. Whether these visits represent genuine memory replay or new constructions built from memory fragments is something that sleep science cannot yet fully answer. But the emotional experience, the sense of returning to something real, can be extraordinarily tender. There is a gentleness to the dream world that waking life does not always offer. The rules that constrain the body, gravity, distance, the passage of time, do not hold in the same way. The dreaming mind moves according to attention, emotion, and intention more than physical law. For people who live with physical limitation or pain, this quality of the dream world carries its own particular and quiet value. In that space, the body can be anything the mind remembers it being. Dream images draw from the deepest layers of personal memory. Faces glimpsed once, briefly, decades ago. Sounds from childhood that the waking mind believes it has forgotten. Textures, light, the particular quality of a late afternoon in a place long left behind. The sleeping brain has kept all of it. Dreams are, among other things, evidence of how much more the mind holds than the person knows. The most common emotional tone in lucid dreams. According to studies of dream content, is wonder, not euphoria or relief, though those appear as well. Most often, what lucid dreamers describe is simply wonder, the quiet recognition of something extraordinary in the ordinary fabric of sleep. The mind, awake inside its own creation, looking around at the world it has made, and feeling something very close to awe. Across all the research into why people want to lucid dream, one answer appears more often than any other: not to control the dream, not to perform impossible acts, not even to resolve nightmares or rehearse skills. Simply to be there, to be present and aware inside the most private world a person has. To know, just for a moment, that the extraordinary is not somewhere else. It is here, in the dark, behind closed eyes, built from everything the mind has ever held. Some people spontaneously lucid dream for the first time during a period of significant life change. Grief, transition, the approach of something large and uncertain. The sleeping mind, in these periods, sometimes activates its own awareness without any deliberate effort. The dream notices that something is different, and the dreamer, catching that recognition, briefly wakes inside it. It is as if the depth of the moment sends its signal all the way into sleep, asking gently to be seen. The practice of paying attention to dreams, lucid or otherwise, is a practice of paying attention to the self. The dream journal, the quiet intention before sleep, the unhurried curiosity about what the sleeping mind offers. All of these direct a kind of care toward inner experience that the pace of ordinary life does not always make room for. In this sense, dream practice is not separate from the rest of a life. It is a way of inhabiting it more completely. Researchers have noted that people who practice lucid dreaming regularly tend to describe a greater sense of agency in their daily lives, a feeling that their choices and attention can shape outcomes. Whether this is a consequence of the practice, a quality shared by those drawn to it, or simply a natural companion to self-reflection, is not yet clear. But the correspondence is worth holding gently. The person who learns to notice what their dreaming mind does may also be learning to notice what their waking mind can do. Your brain creates entire worlds while you sleep. Every night, during REM sleep, your mind constructs vivid experiences from memory fragments, emotions, and patterns only it can see. Characters appear, conversations unfold, and landscapes emerge, all generated from within. These dream worlds feel real in the moment, complete with sensations, sounds, and a coherent sense of self. Yet they soften upon waking, like a candle flame after the window is opened. The sleeping brain is not resting. It is creating, gently and continuously, in the dark. There is something quietly reassuring about knowing that the dreaming mind is always there, that every night, regardless of what the day held, the sleeping brain will build its private world and begin its patient, unwitnessed work. The dreams may not be remembered. The lucid awareness may not come, but the process continues, faithfully, in the dark. The mind at rest is not idle. It is tending to something that does not need the day to know its value. So why do many people want to lucid dream? The answers are as varied as the people who seek it. To fly, to create, to visit what cannot be visited in waking life, to practice, to explore, to understand the nature of consciousness from within. Each answer is different, but beneath them all is the same recognition. The dream world holds something real, and the possibility of entering it with awareness open. That possibility has been drawing people toward the edges of sleep for as long as people have been sleeping. The final stage of sleep before waking is often the most vivid, the most narrative, the most complete. It is as if the sleeping brain, sensing the approach of morning, gathers itself for one last offering before the light returns. Many of the most memorable dreams, and many of the most meaningful lucid dreams, happen in this final window. The night, it seems, saves something for the end. A last story, a final image, a parting word from the mind that has been awake all along. People who have been blind from birth do dream. Their dreams involve sound, touch, taste, smell, and emotion. All the senses that form their waking experience. People who have been sighted and then lost their vision may retain visual dream imagery for years afterward. The dreaming brain works with what it knows, and it is extraordinarily faithful to the sensory world the person has lived in. The dream is a self-portrait, drawn with whatever instruments the self has been given. There is a quality of light in some dreams, a particular soft luminescence with no obvious source, that many dreamers describe as one of the most distinctive features of the dream world. It does not correspond to any waking light. It is neither sunlight nor lamp, but something the dreaming brain generates quietly from within. Some lucid dreamers describe being able to soften or deepen this light simply by attending to it. The dream world illuminates itself from a source no one has ever found. The practice of lucid dreaming, sustained over time, tends to change a person's relationship to uncertainty. The experience of entering a world that operates by different rules, that can shift and transform without warning, builds a quiet ease with the unknown. The lucid dreamer learns to move through the unexpected without needing it to resolve immediately, to find the unfamiliar worth noticing rather than avoiding. Some practitioners describe this as one of the most durable gifts the dream world has offered them. Not any specific dream, but a general softness in the face of the uncontrolled. The last fact of this journey is the simplest. Dreams are one of the oldest facts of being human. Every person who has ever lived has dreamed. Every culture in history has named the dream world and found it worth returning to. And somewhere in that universality, in the fact that the sleeping mind has been building its quiet world since the first human night, is a kind of comfort. You are not alone in this territory. You never have been. You never will be. And so, our quiet journey through dream science comes to a gentle close. We traveled from the morning of April 12th, 1975, when a sleeping man's deliberate eye movements crossed from one world into another on a recording screen in England, all the way to laboratories where sleeping minds answered arithmetic questions in real time, holding a conversation from inside a dream. We discovered that the desire to become conscious within a dream is ancient and entirely understandable. We wandered through the neuroscience of why the brain sometimes wakes inside its own creation. We followed the gamma waves that light up in sleeping frontal lobes, and the personal journals that map the territory before the journey begins. and we arrived. Slowly, at the understanding that the dream world is not a lesser version of reality. It is something built from everything the mind has ever held, illuminated by a light with no source, inhabited by figures drawn from memory and imagination in equal measure. From Alan Worsley's eye signal on a spring morning in 1975, to the soft spiral of a dreamer answering a math problem from inside, the journey has always moved toward the same place. Awareness. Inside the night. Dream science reminds us that the mind is never fully still. Even in the deepest sleep, something is working, sorting, building, making meaning from the fragments of a life. Much of this happens in silence, without witness, in the private theater that only you have ever entered. The dreams you remember are the ones that chose to leave a trace. The ones you don't remember were not less real. They simply passed through you, doing their quiet work and moving on. By pausing to notice, we glimpse the extraordinary within the ordinary. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity of every memory, every dream, every moment of awareness you have ever carried. You are not separate. You are a link in the endless chain. Think about consciousness itself. Yours, mine, everyone listening, all awareness, everywhere. Perhaps all connected in ways we don't yet understand. The same brain that builds the dream world is the brain resting now. The same mind that asks the question is the question. You are not alone in the universe of minds. Let your entire being dissolve into the ocean of consciousness, into dreamless rest, into the space before thought. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left. Only peace. If these quiet stories about the dream world helped you relax or drift towards sleep tonight, a gentle like or subscribe could help another curious mind find their way here too. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, farther than most journeys take you. You can allow these thoughts of dreaming to fade now, like the last image of a dream at dawn. Present one moment, then simply part of everything, leaving only the quiet, unheld calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if all you've carried today is being sorted by careful, invisible hands, and is simply setting itself down. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way the mind moves through a dream, not with force, but with quiet intention, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the dreaming brain will still be there, still tending, still weaving, still becoming. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul. And remember, behind every night, the dreaming mind is always building something new. Good night.